Hi guys, this is Eric for Fulling Mill. We're going to be tying a new pattern today, submitted by Lubos Roza. He's a signature designer with us. Lubos is a multi-medalist in the world of fly fishing, and this is one of his standbys. It's called the pink pheasant tail. All right, so we're going to get started with the jig force hook, and what I like to do is just do a little squeeze of super glue on the crank of the jig there, and take your bead, push it up. It should hold. It's on there pretty good. And we'll start our thread here directly behind the bead. I'm using fluorescent orange. This happens to be a Vivis 10-0. Just run that all the way back to about where the barb would be if this had a barb. Okay. Now we're going to tie in our pheasant tails. Pretty decent clump for the tail on this one. I'd say about 4 to 5 fibers. So pull that 90 degrees from the stem so everything's all even. Measure this up so it's about a hook shank length. Hold that on top, pinch a loop, just take it back, and I like to put one under just to secure. And then trim off the excess to right behind the bead. Next, we're going to use the flashback. Flashback is an opal fluorescent tinsel. I don't have opal fluorescent tinsel, so I'm just going to use some opal flashaboo. Works just fine. So that goes on the top. Make sure you tighten that down. And then trim that to the same length of the pheasant tail fibers, just so everything's congruent. And we'll tie in our ribbing. Same tie-in spot. And I have red small wire, uni wire for the rib on this guy. And I'll just cover up our butts here, make everything look nice and pretty. If you got an errant fiber, just go in there, trim her off. Okay. Now the body is pheasant tail as well, and for this I cut off a separate clump of pheasant tails. I do about 3 fibers for this one, just so it's not so bulky. Tips first. You can build a slight taper on the body when you work your way up and cover up the butt ends. Alright, so now we're ready to actually build the fly here. Just a touch of super glue on the thread wraps to help hold down and secure the pheasant tail. This pheasant tail by nature is quite brittle. And we start wrapping. And just take your time doing this. Make sure you get it how you want it to look. Nice and covered. If you're having problems holding onto this, you can certainly use a hackle plier. I'm just using my fingers because these are pretty long fibers. Alright, so that goes up directly behind the bead. And then you can just tie it off. I do 2 behind and then 2 in front. Cut those off. Flashback is next. I'm going to take the Opal Mirage. Just make sure it's centered. on the back. So tie that down. Oh, that's good. All right, now you can rib with the wire. I try to get about 4 to 5 turns on here, depending on the size. This is a size 16 with a 2-point-millimeter bead on, so about 5. I know that's 6 there, but you're going to be covering that one up, so a couple thread wraps there to lash it down, and you can helicopter it off. And what I like to do to make sure all that is secure, you could do super glue, or you could use a pretty viscous UV resin and just touch the thread wraps there. Just let that soak in for a second and then hit it with the UV light. And that's not going anywhere. And then to finish this fly off, we got a collar of ice dub, and this particular pattern uses peacock black, so just a small pinch. It's very easy to overdo it with this, and you don't want to overdo it too much. And you can finish the fly. And there you have it. It's Lubos Roza's new anchor pattern, pink pheasant tail.